Okay, hello, everybody. What a beautiful day, first of all. It's a cool day today in Texas, and that's because of all the rain that we've been having. Um, but anyway, let me begin this the right way. Welcome back to another episode of What
What
Anna
Anna
Said
Said
podcast.
podcast.
We're so happy to be with you guys again today. I feel like Fridays comes by so quickly, and it felt like it was just yesterday that we were talking with you guys, and here we are again. I wish it was yesterday because the last time we were together, we celebrated Anna's birthday, and she came with this delicious peach cheesecake that we got to enjoy. And so I'm wishing that I had some of that cheesecake right now. Anyway, so guys, as you can see, we're here. We're in a different location. You might hear some noise in the background here and there. It's fine. It's mom life. And so, that means that our babies are with us. Elias is having a great start to his morning also off camera. And so if you hear a little bit of that, just know that he's enjoying his day. Okay? Um,
He's running back and down the hallway.
I can hear,
He
yeah.
just when he wakes up, I need to be more like that. He
Okay.
just gets going.
Yeah, that's what we
Mhm.
need. We need to take a chapter out of Elias' book, okay, in his life. Like Edwards was telling us right before we started recording about his morning routine when he wakes up. He wakes up, he gets dressed, brushes his teeth, fixes his hair. He looks at himself in the mirror and says, "Today's going to be a great day."
Mhm.
And I'm like,
He
yes,
does. I love
Elias. Okay, that's what I need to do every day.
Yeah, and so I'm going to take a page out of his book, like you said, the book of Elias, and I'm going to say, today is going to be a great day.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last time that we were here together, as you know, we've been going through our episode, the series that we've been covering is Formed Underwater, which is a book that we've been talking about. We have so much fun getting together and kind of going through all of the information that's here in this book, all these truths, just how we're applying them in our lives and kind of the things that we're discovering as we go through these pages. And so if you guys were with us last week, you know that we started chapter 2, that we're still covering chapter 2, and we left off somewhere towards the end there. If you have your book, we left off on page 28 at the very top. And so today we're just covering the last page of chapter 2. And chapter 2 is it's just these 3 pages here that make up chapter 2. But because of the information that's in these pages, it really does take some time for us to go through each page and taking a break in between each page to taking the information that we read, first of all, to apply it, to meditate on the truths that we're discovering, and to really soak in all that we're learning. And so even though this book is not that thick, the information in here really is, you really need to take your time in making sure that we understand before we even move on to the next page. So that's what we've been doing for the duration of this entire book. From our study since the beginning, we've been going through everything organically and just taking our time. And so that's why we're still in chapter 2, even though we've started this months ago. We're still here in chapter 2. So like I said, page 28. But before we get into that, Kim, I want to just share with any of our friends that are watching. I'm kind of going over what we've already covered, Kim and Edner, just everything that we talked about last week, or the things that we've learned so far before we get back onto where we left off.
Yes, thank you, Anna. So as she mentioned, we're here in chapter 2, and on chapter 2 we talk about the origin. Where do you come from? And on page 25 it says, if you don't understand your origin, you will misuse your life. So we've been talking about, if you don't know the purpose of things, abuse is inevitable. And also that that you don't begin with effort, but you begin with origin. We talked about through this book about the author, and how he came to America with his hopes and dreams and all of these wonderful things, and what he believed his calling was, just to later realize that all his effort and all the things that he was doing, nothing was adding up, and he went through a hardship in a time, but at the same time of hitting his lowest, he could still somehow breathe underwater. And that's when he was faced with the four truths, that we're going through here. Who am I? All those different questions that we're going over in this book. So with chapter 1, we talked about,
Again, identity.
yes, chapter 1, we talked about identity. Who are you? Before you decide where you are going, you must know who you are. So we dove a little bit deeper into that in chapter 1, which you can watch on our episodes earlier to catch up if you're following along with us in this book. And then chapter 2 about our origin. And we really, really take the time to dive into these things because these are questions that, growing up, you don't really think about too much. You kind of think about it when you're asked what you want to do or become when you get older, but to really take the time to pull back the layers and really think about it. Who are you? Who am I without the labels, without the things that people tell me that I am, or, the job title that I have, or all these things. When you strip away all those different layers, who are you actually? And we really talk about the purpose of why we're created, just like the purpose of everything, around us, like the purpose of this couch. Someone created it so we could sit down and enjoy sitting down together and enjoy, instead of walking around and having to stand, we get to sit down. It's the same thing like us. There must be a creator that created us with the purpose in mind of something great for us to achieve. And so we really dive into this book, and I encourage our viewers and listeners online to really take the time to ask these questions to yourself as well. Grab that pen and that paper and jot down notes while we're talking about these things. Any questions you have, to leave them in the comment section, or even reach out to us personally. If it's something you want to talk about one-on-one, we are more than open, and we would love to just hear your thoughts and ideas as we dive into this book.
Yeah. One of the things that I love that we got to talk about last week, and including all the things that Kim just said, is that it doesn't come easy. These seasons of your identity and then your origin, these are frustrating things, I think, when you're beginning on asking the right questions. And so just to dive in on page 27 about what about in origin, what we covered last week, what I enjoyed was that the answer is not that something went wrong, it's the formation. It's that formation often happens before clarity. Identity is forged before assignment. And my favorite part is roots grow in darkness long before fruits appear in light. And when I think about this darkness, I was thinking about, it's not a place of what it really sounds like. It's just completely dark. But being mothers, I don't know about you guys, but being able to just sit in a room that is quiet, in a room that there's no lights, and you're just at peace. That's what this darkness is talking about. You're being formed, you're being transformed, you're being able to listen clearly when there's nothing, no other sounds that's coming in. You're being able to, what the terms is today, lock in and saying, God, what are you showing me? Or being able to receive. We just talked about this earlier in one of our meetings, is that when you're up at the earliest, at the crack of dawn, and there's nothing else going on, you're able to spiritually hear better. And so that's the darkness that I'm relating to. It's just like when the seeds are in the roots, they're in a comfortable and a cozy place where they can grow the best. And then you get to see the fruit of all the things. And so that's kind of where origin is. It's being able to lock in and understand, who do I belong to? I love, and Anna always says this, whose you are, and knowing that this place that you're in is all a part of God's plan and the preparation of what's coming ahead for you.
Yes, thank you so much for that recap, Kim and Edner. Also going back to page 27 where we were last week, and just sharing that, and just setting us up, because yes, we've been talking about origin. We've been talking about chapter 1 was your identity, right? Who are you? And what we've learned is the truth that the origin and identity go hand in hand. Without one, you cannot truly define the other. And so we have to address that missing piece, right? We're talking about origin. And so that's what chapter 2 has been all about. And like Edner said, you know, the thing about our hardest seasons and our trials, tribulations, and all those things that we're going in, sometimes that's where the deepest part of your formation is happening. Sometimes that's where you get the most formed. in those seasons. And so, like you shared on the pages here before, about how roots grow in darkness long before the fruit appears in the light. And that's something that we really dove into last week. And we just talked about those examples and that visual about a seed being buried, underground, beneath the weight of the dirt, and how even though the growth is not visible on the surface, the roots continue to grow and they're being developed and they're preparing for what's to come, for for the fruit that is to come, above the surface. That the fruit that does appear in the light first is the root that grows underground. And so that was something that we covered last week, and I love that visual, and I love that example. And so thank you for bringing that up again. um, Last week, when where we left off was the top of page 28, and we left off on a question, and the question was, what is this season forming in me? And we began last week's episode by with another question, which was, if God had so much intention for my life, then why am I suffering? Why am I going through so much? What is going on? To then understanding how knowing your origin is security, and being secure in whose you are really changes your perspective. Maybe not changing your circumstance immediately, but it definitely changes your perspective and shifts your mindset to, why is this going on? Why is this happening to me? To, what is this season forming in me? What is being prepared within me? What am I being developed for? And so that was a powerful question to meditate on and to think about, from the last week, leaving off from the episode that we just recorded on the podcast. Was everything that we're going through, thinking about the pressures of life, thinking about the current season that you're in, and asking this question to yourself: what is this season forming in me? What is God forming in me right now? What is being developed in me? And so from there, well, I guess before I move on to read the first paragraph, I just want to ask you guys about that, about your reflections on that question. I know what I love about this question is that it's so easy to see, hindsight is 2020. So when I look back at previous seasons of hardship, previous seasons of darkness, and things like that, feeling like you're abandoned, or feeling like you're going through things alone. When I look back at those seasons, I immediately can see, like, okay, now I understand why God was doing this. Now I understand that delay wasn't denial, that God was working. He needed this thing to be formed, or this character to develop, or whatever. And so, looking back at those seasons, this is definitely a praise to be able to see, like, okay, that's what was happening for me in my life.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Whenever I think about that question, what is the season forming in me? The thing I can think about in this season is a season of refinement. And so I looked up the definition for refinement, and it says process or result of improving something by removing impurities, making small adjustments, or enhancing its quality. And just thinking about, everything that is going on in this time in my season, and just seeing, like, just God's hand in it all, and the details and everything. And at the same time, just because of knowing, getting this better understanding of origin and who am I, and, where I come from, all these things can, now I can look at life with a better outlook. I can better position myself, because now I know the true meaning of why I was born, what I was created for. And so I can take this season of refinement, with better ease and better understanding, because whenever I look at these things, I'm like, okay, I know, these are the things that need to happen, to be stripped away or to be made during this time. Just like you guys mentioned um, about the seeds forming, in darkness before you see the fruit of it, is the same thing. It's just taking the season with everything that is coming with the season, at the same time looking toward the future, because I just can't wait to see what, like Anna said, hindsight's 2020. I can't wait to see what, what's in store for us. So, and for me. So yeah.
I love plants. in this house, hold on, because I'm like, you pass all these plants in my house and not growing. But we have scroll issues anyhow. But one of my favorite things to plant is lilies, and I never grew them, never grew them before. And a friend of ours had given me, I think like two. It was very small, and I remember thinking when she had given it to me, I thought I shouldn't it be more, because I want it to be a little bit more fuller. But before I get to that, lilies take forever, personally for me, for it to grow. But the first time I ever saw it bloom, I remember looking at and saying, "Man, that was so worth it." Like the colors were vibrant, the way that it just it's so beautiful when it's at its a full form. And so when the first time I seen it, and then it died, within the season, I was okay with that because I knew what it looked like. I knew that I'm going to see this lily again. And one of the things that my friend told me is that when you have lilies, they double every year. And I was like, really? Because something about the seeds in the ground, or however it is. So every year they do double. We went from 2 to 6 and a couple more. But when I look at it now that in my new home, I can see the lilies from my kitchen window. And when I look, I was just thinking about that, because when I look at it, I know what I'm going to expect from my lilies. I know that the blessings of seeing its beautiful, vibrant colors is going to double every year. And so I was just thinking about that's sort of what my life is right now. I'm no longer, though I'm thankful for the tribulations and the previous darkness that has built us today. We always speak about those seasons because that's what had formed us today. But speaking about just in today's season, those lilies sort of remind me of those things, that I'm able to see the blessings, and knowing that when it's going away and hiding back into his little darkness, his cool form, and being able to have the next transformation for the next season, that it doubles. And so just thinking about that reminder that what's yet to come is it's going to be good things. Being able to be formed, being able to be watered, to be able to just be planted, that good things are going to come.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Edna. I never knew that about the lilies.
Yeah.
And then it also just made me think about my banana tree. So I got this banana tree and I planted it out in my front yard. And it was just one banana tree. And then, the winter came, it died. And then it was gone. And I was like, oh, I should have covered it. The next year, the summer came, spring came. And then there were 3 banana trees. And I said, wait, I only had one. How did I end up having 3? So I remember when I seen it, it also reminded me, just like you were saying, like that the seasons and what they're forming at the same time, like that there's more, it was kind of like a affirmation and confirmation of everything we were doing. I was like, okay, the year of abundance is coming. And so the winter came again. It did die. It did not wrap it up. And so I was like, oh, there it goes again. And then here comes the summer again. And right now it turned from 1 to 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 5 in my front yard. And I'm like, they're just going to keep going. And at the same time, like abundance, just speaking it over my life and everything we're doing. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I guess the lilies and the banana tree, I guess they just, multiply, like you said. I don't know if it's true about banana trees, but it's been doing that every year. So
I think you need to check because you might have a leak. The fact that you're not taking care of it and it's coming back, and it's like living its best life, go ahead and check. There might be a leak there because those banana trees are eating, drinking something. Okay, because the way that you just leave them and they're living a good life, something's happening. The lily is supposed to do that. You go ahead and check for a leak. But yes, but that's so true. And I love that you guys have that example, like that you've experienced it, and you see, well, you're not doing anything, but that you've experienced it and that you've seen, like how they take that time, and you're to us, looking at it on the surface, it's like, okay, it died, it's gone. No, it's actually preparing to surprise you with another gift, and it brought a friend, and it's doubling. And but yeah, thank you for sharing that. Kim, I might come and take one of your banana trees, because
you don't have to take care of it. It's just gonna multiply, Anna.
I mean, if I don't have to take care of it, then it's definitely gonna grow well. But yeah, so what is this season forming in me? And so if you were with us last week, and you want to share your findings and your discovery and your journey in this study, and maybe you set on that question, or maybe you're still trying to figure that question out and dive deep into your own situation right now in your own life journey and experience, but share that with us. We definitely love to walk alongside you during your journey as you're discovering that. But we begin today on the first paragraph at the top, and it says, when origin is settled, reaction gives way to response. Fear gives way to discernment. Confusion gives way to patience. And perhaps most importantly, you stop trying to become someone else just to escape your current reality. And I love this because it
Yeah.
clarifies exactly, it brings truth to the circumstance. When origin is settled, when origin is, when you're secure in whose you are, when you have that understanding, and it tells us here, this is the truth, is that reaction gives way to response. Instead of reacting to everything, you get to respond. Fear gives way to discernment. Confusion gives way to patience. Chaos no longer controls the situation. Chaos no longer dictates. Uh, you no longer look at your life through the lens of chaos, but instead you look at it through the lens of truth. And perhaps most importantly, you stop trying to become someone else just to escape your current reality. That's something that, especially these days in the world of social media, that's something that you see, or that I see is at an all-time high, is trying to be somebody else just to escape your current reality. Our Instagram reels and the photos and things that we post, that's all a highlight reel. That's all the
Yeah.
good times that you're seeing. And so sometimes you're scrolling and you're not in a good place, and you're seeing all these things happening around you, all these good things happening to people around you, and you begin to compare, and you begin to um sulk in the low place that you're already in. But all of that is a lie. All of that is not factual. All of that is not real. And then you begin to adopt the personality of the person you're following, or you begin to lie to yourself that this is, if I just become like this, then everything would be better.
Yeah.
And so when origin is settled, it doesn't give you a new identity, but it gives you a new perspective. It reveals to you what your true identity actually is. And so when I look at that, that's exactly what comes to mind, is that you now are being framed by the truth and the truth that's always been there, and your eyes are open to it. So that's what I got as I was reading through that paragraph and some of the notes that I wrote in here. Um, Kim, can you read the next one, please?
You begin to understand that your life didn't start when things made sense. It started when purpose was spoken long before you could hear it. Knowing where you come from doesn't solve every problem, but it steadies you inside them.
I didn't know you were gonna keep reading.
Oh, sorry.
I thought
Well,
you.
there's still a sentence left. So.
Okay, thank you. Next time I'll have Edna read
Yes,
the.
I got you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, the paragraph that what Kim just read, you begin to understand that your life didn't start when things made sense, and I love that. That stood out to me when I first read through that. Um, the truth of knowing that, yeah, your life didn't start when things made sense. God didn't begin working when you came to know Him.
Yeah.
He was always working. God was working before you even understood that He was working.
Knowing your origin is so vital because, especially speaking over my personal life and growing up in childhood trauma, um, it's so new when you begin to ask the right questions, when you begin to know who you are, when you begin to know whose you are. And in the season of being able to deal with that, you have to face the reality, you have to face the questions. And what I have found is that from my family, we run away from problems immediately. When we see something that's too hard, or when we see things that are too uncomfortable to deal with, we run away and pretend that it doesn't exist. But that creates just this emptiness and just it just creates of you just ignoring things, because what I've discovered is that when I finally began to understand who I belong to, God had me face those problems. And one of that, and it wasn't even just me having to face this, it was him telling me that, Andrew, I got you, I'll face it for you. And just having that comfortability of knowing that God has me, I know who I am. But then when he began to reveal to me and show me that it wasn't these big things that you just continue to, I guess, like, dig a grave in, when you're so under, when it's begin to be revealed to you, you start to see, oh, why did I run away from it for so long? Why did I pretend to be something else? This is really who I am. You begin to understand and see who God created you to be. Therefore, you're not as scared to just go into it, if that makes sense. And I'm so thankful for those seasons, because discernment was a huge thing that I lacked until I met God. And looking up discernment is, it just means that God's given ability to accurately distinguish truth from error, good from evil, and God's will from human preferences. Sorry, this light is bright, so I'm like, what do I write
Yes,
down?
okay.
Okay,
Same thing for
so
me. Yes.
and I had glasses on, so sorry. Let me read that one more time, just in case. God's gift for discernment. God's given ability to accurately distinguish truth from error, good from evil, and God's will from human preferences. And what I loved about discernment is that I was finally able to distinguish those things. I had no clarity behind before those things. And so having to face those reality, having to face those questions, having to really see the trauma for what it is and understand that I'm serving a God who can heal all those things, it made me understand, like, it gave me that clarity of being able to understand why the evil things I did that was hidden within what I thought that were good things, and just being able to uncover those truths. Definitely, that's where healing began for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Edna. That's I love how you spoke about, once you understood who you belong to, your posture even changed. Like you said, you turn around and you face those problems, not because, you know,
Yeah.
of it, but I'm sorry. You turn around and face those problems because of the security that came with knowing who you belong to,
That's
and
right.
knowing that every battle you go into, you're not alone.
Hmm.
And so that trust, and trusting that um, all of these things that you're facing are on purpose. Like it's not wasted. The wilderness has not been wasted.
Yeah, discovering who you were created to be is something so fun. So start now, okay? Asking those right questions, because I was definitely someone, because I ran from my problems for so many years, and I realized that I was doing it. Because when you're running, you begin to just run on off of adrenaline. You're not realizing how exhausted it is. And so being able to face who I am, I'm like, oh, I do like to paint. I was taking on so many other personalities, so many other interests of others, that I forgot what mine was. I began to even say things before. I'm like, why did I ever say pizza was my favorite food? I don't even like pizza. Just simple things that were like that. And you begin to when you begin to discover who you are, it's so much fun. It's like, oh, this is who God made me, who I am. You begin to just be happy, joyful. Happiness is so different. There's so much transformation and joy when you come to this side of understanding, like, oh, this is who God made me, and understanding again whose I am. There's so much peace with just knowing that and discovering who you are.
That is so true. I love that, and it goes back to what we were saying, what we were reading earlier about when origin is settled, you stop trying to become someone
That's
else
right.
just to escape your current reality. You're here eating pizza, you don't even like pizza. I mean, it's not even your favorite. And the author even talks about that too in his introduction. He talks about how, you're no longer living life. All of the things that he was going through, you're no longer living life, you're just surviving. You're just surviving what's going on, and you're not in control of what's happening. You're just allowing everything around you to form who you are, to or to the labels that
Yeah.
the world is giving you. And just like you're like, oh yeah, I guess I like pizza's my favorite, and this is this. But like you said, once you start this journey, like, start now, don't delay, because once you really start this journey on
It's so much
discovering,
fun. It
yes,
is.
uncover, like you said, peeling back, uncovering, because this is something that already existed before you came to be, before. I remember reading this and writing it down here. Long before you chose him, God called you. long before you knew your calling, God was already writing your story. And so these are things that nobody can add to or take away from, like we've said many times on this podcast. And so, like, you diving into that journey and having fun and living a fulfilled life, just knowing who you really are, who you were created to be, your identity, what you like to do, your personality, and the unique traits that you were created with. And so that those are all the things that come with
That's right.
with knowing where you come from.
Yeah, just like about the lilies, first planting the lilies, it was just a stem and like a seed that fell, or that was holding on to it. You
Yeah.
don't get to see the full product. So when and that's my first time planting anything besides whatever was already in the ground. And so I was like, I wasn't really expecting much of it because nothing has grew up to its full form because I never gave it the patience to it. And so, the beginning of those stages, it doesn't seem fun. But then once it grows and you see its full form and the vibrant colors of what it's supposed to be, it's so beautiful. So understanding that it doubles within years, it's so exciting when it does die because I know it's not dying forever. I know that it's going back into the dirt and being transformed. It's being prepared to, and then for me, I get to look at it and see. I wonder how much more I would get for the next following year. That's sort of how it reminds me of just our journey and just knowing who you are. And when something goes under, when you're going through those darkness of hard seasons, I know it's going to hurt. I know that it's going to be hard, but also there's that excitement, like, Lord, what are you doing? What is about to happen now? Because it just gets better.
Yes. I love that you use the word excitement because that really is what it is. When you understand your origin, when you know who's in control, when you know who holds your days, and it really is excitement because everything that you go through now has purpose. Everything that you go through, like the pressure you're carrying today, perhaps it's preparation. It's not just for suffering.
No.
It's not, like we talked about with everything that you went through, that you share here. All those times were not wasted. Those things built something and developed something and formed a character within you to be able to carry out the assignment that you were given to carry out on this earth when you were created. And what an exciting journey it is that when you're going through trials, knowing that something beautiful is coming out on the other side of it. And so, yeah, when you said the word excitement, I was like, yeah, that's honestly what it is. And may seem so weird to someone who's never experienced it, someone who doesn't understand. But like we shared last week, is that the word of God, everything, it's like opposite day. To lead, you have to serve. And so even when you're going through your trials and tribulations, it really is exciting because you know that something is being developed, being formed, that something good is coming on the other side of it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, Kim, you can go back to your
Yes, I'll read that
Read
last
from here.
sentence. Okay. Yes, the sentence before and then the last sentence. Knowing where you come from doesn't solve every problem, but it steadies you inside them. It teaches you how to breathe even underwater.
Did you do it right?
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness you can handle that. But yes, like you said, like this says here, which I love again, knowing where you come from doesn't solve every problem.
Yeah.
It's not a snap your fingers and all your problems are gone, but it steadies you inside them. And I love that because what I wrote here, what came to mind after reading that was, I know who I am in the middle of the storm, in the middle of chaos, in the middle of destruction, in the middle of being accused, in the middle of any trial, tribulation, in the middle of that, I know who I am. And so your origin becomes your anchor, becomes what steadies you in the middle, inside of that. And it says it teaches you how to breathe even underwater, even through all of the pressure, even through all of the hardship. And so it teaches you to breathe even underwater. Um, very good. Guys, sometimes we get on here, like doing a podcast with your sister is like, it's fun, right? But there are times But anyway, yes, reading through all of this, it really, there are many stories that come to mind, that I can think of, especially in the Bible. For those of you who've been following along, I talk about this all the time. I usually refer to Paul or David or Joseph or Esther. Um, and their stories and their hardships and trials, especially their times, their seasons of being in the wilderness, and how they were being formed, they were being prepared, they were being developed. And I don't want to go into all of it right now, but I do want to share just some of the stories that continue to encourage me. And so, I mean, I think about Joseph. Joseph, he received a dream as a young man. Okay, he received a dream as a young man, but then he was betrayed by his brothers. Imagine that, betrayed by your brothers. Not only that, but he was thrown in a pit when he was betrayed. He was sold into slavery. Okay, he was thrown into slavery. He was thrown in the pit, thrown into slavery. He was falsely accused. Then he was forgotten in prison. And so every season that he's gone through, he could have said, God, why have you abandoned me? What's going on here? It wasn't good enough that I was betrayed by my brothers. Now I have to be sold into slavery. Now I have to be falsely accused. Now I have to be here in prison. Hello, what was that dream about when I was young? Just all of these things that Joseph was going through, but he never once, I mean, this man of faith, he never once had that perspective. Why? Because he knew who he belonged to. He knew who called him before everything else in the world was formed. And so, even though, sorry guys, I'm like the lights the
Yeah.
lights are blinding me. I can't even read my notes here. Yes,
I should
yes.
have done it earlier. Like,
No, you're
pause.
fine.
No, it's okay. It should still be on since the flash is on.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I noticed that's what it is.
Yes.
Oh, it is?
Sorry, we just want to make
Okay.
sure that we're still rolling here because okay. And so Joseph, through all these seasons, through all that hardship, through all the different difficulties, it was like this level of difficulty, this level of difficulty. Through everything that he was going through, he was being formed the entire time, so that once he got to the palace, he was formed with the character to carry the dream that he was given as a young man. We talk about David a lot. We talk about how David, as a young shepherd boy, he was anointed to be king while Saul was still on the throne. He was anointed to be king. And guess what? After he was anointed, do you know what happened? He went back to tending the sheep for years. After he was called by God, mind you, by God himself, appointed to be king, he went back to being a shepherd boy. And even after he defeated Goliath, he spent years, after he did something that great, he spent years running for his life, living in caves, hiding in deserts, hunted by the very king that he was called to replace. And there were many times, if you know the story of David, you know that there were many times that he had the opportunity to kill King Saul. He had the opportunity to kill the person who was hunting him, who was keeping him on the run. But David knew a truth that um, was very important, and that is that if God calls you to something, he is responsible for fulfilling it. And so what David knew was that God called him to be king. And David refused to shortcut his promise by taking Saul out. He knew that God had a plan. He knew that this time, running around in the caves, hiding, all of those things, he knew that God was preparing something in him, forming something in him. So whenever he finally came to the palace, whenever he finally came to take his throne, he had already been developed with all the things he needed to be the great king that he was called to be. A lot of the Psalms that are so encouraging to us, guys, those were written in caves, in the wilderness. Not David was not writing these things from the palace. He was writing these things to times where he was running for his life. I mean, maybe if it wasn't for those times where he was running for his life, maybe we would have never gotten the Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd," because those things usually come from times like that. I think about some of my favorite artists and I think about the songs that I love. And there's a joke, on social media, like when your artist is going through something like heartbreak, everyone's excited, which is that's so sad. But everybody's excited because it's like we're about to get the best record, the best album ever.
The lyrics are gonna,
Right. Because there's something that's just so sobering about being in that place. There's something that's so authentic and raw that is pulled out from you that you could not get in any other circumstance. If life was just flowing and sometimes you're that kind of truth is poured out of you when you're really going through it. And so the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yeah, David, you meant that. You're in the cave, you're in the wilderness with that. You believe that, you trusted that because you knew already whose you were. You knew that God had called you and that he was responsible for fulfilling that calling. What incredible peace to have that. To know that, man, I was called by God. He has a plan for my life. Whatever is going on here, he brings purpose to it. And that's the truth. The wilderness was never wasted. Everything that you've gone through, your hardship, your trying times, all of that is not wasted. It has not been in vain. God is developing something. He's creating something so that when you walk into the calling, you have already built the character, the person that you need to be in order to carry out that thing. You're built different. Okay? That's one thing that, sometimes my husband's like, I don't know how you do it, how you do that. I'm like, I'm built different. Hello? Understand this already. But that really is the truth. I think about Paul. I know, like, a little inside joke within us with our group here is because they're like, you always talk about Paul. Paul. But honestly, Paul's life is just such a encouragement to me, time and time again. I mean, Joseph, David, Paul, like all these people defeated death because their stories still inspire impact today. And so because of their faithfulness, I'm encouraged today. And I think about Paul, how his he was literally in prison, and how him being in prison became, and not confinement, but a platform. And so I think about how, first of all, what an encounter he had with the Lord, Paul. But even after that encounter, he didn't immediately become the greatest apostle. He had years of preparation um, through his ministry, through his missionary journeys. I think about how he was literally beaten, shipwrecked, rejected, imprisoned. And some of the most encouraging books that we know of today, Philemon, Philippians, Ephesians, Colossians, guys, they were written from prison. They were literally written in a place where you are in shackles, where you are bound, where your freedom is taken away. And Paul couldn't have been more free. And in that place in prison, he asked himself, how can I use this situation here to glorify God? Hello? Paul, I'm still learning. I'm sorry, I haven't got it yet. I'm trying and I'm still learning. But in prison is where he wrote, I have learned to be content in my circumstances. I have learned to be content in my circumstances. Wow. All the things that all the encouraging things, those books that he had written, he had to be in that place for him to be able to say that, for us to be able to believe it. Because I don't know if I would be writing that kind of encouragement from jail. I think I'd be writing everybody to try to please come and break me out, but not Paul, because he knew that there was something that he needed to do. There was purpose in that. And so, what an encouragement that is. I look at their stories, I look at the truth in these pages, I look at our own stories and our own experiences and how we see these truths in our life. And I'm encouraged by it. And that's why I love doing this. And I hope that you are encouraged by it as well. And I hope that, even the stories that we talked about, David, Joseph, Paul, Esther, all of these, in the Bible, you will see all these. This is exactly where that comes from. You will see these things time and time and time again. The biggest encouragement for me is knowing that my seasons in the wilderness, they're not wasted. That God called me. That because of knowing whose I am, who I belong to, that there is purpose in pain. That I know who I am in the midst of the storm. I know who I am in the midst of the chaos. And so the chapter 2, yes. So chapter 2 ends there, but we do have some reflections on the back of the. So we're gonna go ahead and thank you, Anna, for reading through that. And guys, our camera cut off, but it's okay. We're good thing we're coming to wrap it up now.
Yeah.
And so a storage space, all the things, but it's okay. We're here at the end now. So thank you so much, Edna, for reading that, those questions. We encourage everybody to take a moment to meditate on that. Think about that today. Take some time to really go through those questions and ask yourself those things. And also where we're going next. In the next chapter, we'll explore why understanding origin naturally leads to purpose, and how purpose is not something you invent, but something you uncover. Because once you know who you are, and once you understand where you come from, chapters 1 and 2, the question becomes unavoidable. Why am I here? And I'm already excited to dive into that. But before we dive into that, we must first make sure that we understand what we've just gone through and really, really get that one down first. Okay. So as we take this time, the days that are to come before we get to next Friday, I just encourage you guys to think about that. What have I assumed about myself based on my struggles? Where have I mistaken pressure for rejection? What might be forming in me right now, even if I don't see it yet? You don't need to rush these answers. Understanding origin is not about speed, it's about grounding, it's about taking your time and really understanding everything before we even move forward. It's not a race. We are not in competition with one another. And so take your time and uncover these truths for yourself, but join the conversation. We'd love to take this journey together. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Sometimes the mics don't work. Sometimes the camera cuts off. Sometimes the light is blinding my eye. And each time it's a good time. We have so much fun doing this. We hope that you have enjoyed it too. Come join the conversation again next week. We'll catch you guys in another episode of What Anna Said podcast.
Bye.
Bye.